Sup? So, we're here to talk about podcasts, more so podcast audio, more so premium podcast audio. So, looking at a lot of YouTube videos and being around in the podcast space and working more with clients, a lot of people tend to recommend the SM7B. Yes, a lot of people say that's the gold standard of microphones. It's been around a long time. It's broadcast premium heaven, but I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of misinformation when it comes to that microphone. I'm not a hater because I do own the SM7B. It was my first microphone. It sounds good, but only when you do a lot of things to it, meaning you have a good signal chain, you have like a cloud lifter, or you have an audio interface that can satisfy that gain hungry microphone. So I'm here to point you in the right direction and tell you that there's 5 microphones better than the SM7B. But before we get into that, there are 2 types of microphones you should be knowledgeable about. There are dynamic microphones and there are condenser microphones. So dynamic microphones tend to be less sensitive and more gain hungry, and they're pretty much bulletproof because you can drop a whole lot of dynamic microphones and they still work. Condenser microphones, not too much. If you drop a condenser microphone like this one right here, hopefully you have a good warranty. But with dynamic microphones, you can be in more of a reverberant, less treated room, and it would be more forgiving. With a condenser microphone, they tend to be more sensitive and they pick up a lot of nuances in your voice a lot better. But if you have a lot going on in your space, a condenser microphone will pick that up. And even with the condenser microphones, there are 2 types of condenser microphones. So there's the small diaphragm and the large diaphragm condenser microphones. So the small diaphragm condenser microphones tend to be in shotgun mics, and they're good for like Foley and sound effects because they're more sensitive to the highs and the mid frequencies. And the larger diaphragm condenser microphones is good for like singing and podcasts because it has a richer, warmer sound. So let's get to the comparisons. So my comparisons is going to be kind of different. So it's not going to be really scientific. It's more practical. Now, if you go to channels like Curtis Judd as well as Podcast Stage, they're going to give you like the true test, which is like dry with no processing whatsoever. But me, I'm going to throw a lot of processing in it so you can see what it sounds like with all the processing on a podcast. It'll give you an idea of what your podcast will sound like with these microphones. So let's go. So this is the SM7B. So this is kind of the pinnacle of microphones. Well, that's what everyone likes to tell you. Like when you're doing a podcast, this is the gold standard microphone. I'm not too much a fan. Because this is the mic I started out with, and it is very, very gain hungry. It doesn't sound bad. I just don't like it for my voice, and I don't like it for a lot of clients' voice as well. So that's why there's like 5 other microphones that's better than this microphone. You know what I'm saying? But you need to do a lot with this microphone in order for it to sound really, really good. Yes, a lot of people say that this is a microphone that Michael Jackson used to record Thriller, but what they don't tell you is the signal chain. What he had this microphone going through, a lot of the analog compressors and etc. There's a lot that had to be done to this microphone. But let me not digress. So this is a cardioid dynamic microphone. It has switches at the back for mid EQ, low cut, and high pass filter. So the frequency response of this microphone is 50 hertz to 20 kilohertz or 20,000 hertz. It's an analog output, so XLR only. And boy, this needs a lot of gain. So if you don't have like a newer XLR, what am I saying? If you don't have a newer audio interface that can handle this microphone, you're going to need something like a cloud lifter, or you're going to have to get the newer SM7DB, which has a cloud lifter built in order to compensate for a lot of that gain that you might need. But this is what it sounds like, or this is what it could sound like Or if, again, you are an engineer, broadcast level, or just know what you're doing, it can sound even better than this, but this can be the potential of this microphone. You know what I'm saying? All right, so this is a microphone that's $250. This is the Rode NT1 5th generation. And this is what it sounds like with a whole bunch of plugins from Universal Audio. And it could sound better than this if you're an audio engineer or if you just understand the signal chain better than I do. You can run some EQs and run some condensers and etc. It can sound better than this, but your podcast can sound just like this or even better with a mic for $250. So a couple of things. This is a large diaphragm cardioid condenser microphone. It has a frequency response of 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz or 20,000 hertz. It has a maximum SPL of 142 dB and it has an analog output, which is XLR. And it also has a digital output, which is USB-C. So that's handy if you don't have an audio interface and you just want to plug it into the computer. Now you might have to do a couple of things like have some Waves plugins or other plugins in order to make it sound like this, but it's an option with a mic for $250. All right, so this is my third microphone. This is the Electro Voice RE20, another famous broadcasting microphone. I like this better than the SM7B. It isn't as dark as the SM7B. It is really good in the mid sections and the highs. So it's pretty good, especially to my voice. So this is a dynamic cardioid microphone. It has controls on it, which is a low cut and a high pass filter. It has a frequency response of 45 hertz to 18 kilohertz or 18,000 hertz. And it's an XLR output microphone. So you need something like a audio interface to use this microphone. But this is what it sounds like. This is what your podcast can sound like with an RE20. And if you are a really good engineer or just someone that knows sound much better than me, then you can get it sounded better than this. So, yes, sir. So next up, we got the Earthworks Icon Pro. So not only does this microphone sound good, it also looks good. You got that brushed stainless steel look, and it's a condenser microphone. So your room has to be treated. It's going to pick up a whole bunch of stuff in the room. But as you see, my voice is a bit more fuller and a bit richer with this microphone. So this is a cardioid condenser microphone. It has a frequency response of 20 hertz to 30 kilohertz or 30,000 hertz. It has a maximum SPL of 139 dB and it has an analog output. So you definitely need an audio interface with this microphone. So this is what your podcast can sound like with the Earthworks Icon Pro, or it can sound even better if you know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So this is the Earthworks Ethos. Another great microphone, stainless steel, brushed. It looks good on video. It sounds great. Now, it isn't as detailed as the Earthworks Icon Pro. It's a little darker, but if you compare this to something like the SM7B, this is much more clearer than that. It has way more clarity. So this is a bit different than all the other microphones because the polar pattern of this microphone is a supercardioid. It's also a condenser microphone, and the frequency response of this microphone is 20 hertz to 30 kilohertz or 30,000 hertz. It has a maximum SPL of 145 dB, and it has an XLR output. So it's another analog microphone that you need an audio interface to use. This is what your podcast can sound like using the Earthworks Ethos, or it can sound much better, depending on if you know what you're doing. All right, so this is the last microphone. This was actually supposed to be the Lewitt LCT 440 pure large diaphragm cardioid microphone, but I don't have it. So I have this, which is the AKG C414 XLS. It's an $1,100 microphone, but don't judge me. You know what I'm saying? I just don't have the Lewitt. So this is the fifth microphone. So there's a lot of things going on with this microphone right here. This has a lot of polar patterns. So this has cardioid, figure 8, hypercardioid, omnidirectional, super cardioid and wide cardioid. So you're getting quite a few microphones with this mic. And the polar pattern has, well, the controls is polar pattern. Well, you can change it. The pad, the low cut, and the high pass filter. So this has a frequency response of 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz or 20,000 hertz. And the maximum SPL is 140 dB, 5% THD, and 158 dB at 5% THD with pad. So all you audio guys, you know what that means. And this is an analog microphone as well. So you do need a audio interface to use this mic. So this is a good microphone if you're in a budget to get like 4 of these. So your podcast will sound like really, really high quality. So with these microphones, you will see a lot of churches use these for crowd mics because of all the polar patterns. They just sound so good. They just sound so good. And yeah, they just sound so good. So there you have it. 5 microphones that sound better than the SM7B. Now, if you still prefer the SM7B over all of these other microphones, we're not friends. We're not friends. I ain't gonna lie. Now, I'm not saying that the SM7B is bad because there's a lot of podcasts and etc. that sounds good with it, but they could sound better with these microphones. No. You can just comment down in that comment section and tell me which one you prefer. And if you got any questions about any of these microphones, let me know and I'm going to get back to you. And I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Peace.